Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be talking about cattle knife. Y'all know what a cattle knife is, right? It kind of looks like this. Got a bunch of them on the table here, old vintage cattle knives. But I'm also going to talk about the cattle knife as a pattern. What is a cattle knife? What makes it a cattle knife? How old the pattern is? All that kind of stuff. We're going to take a walk back in time as we look at these knives and learn about uh, what a cattle knife is all about. I can tell you there's a lot more to this knife than what you're used to seeing, which is kind of knives like this. So I hope you check out the video. It's going to be pretty good, very informative, and there are going to be some surprises in this video. All right, welcome back to the Fortified Castle. Hi to all my viewers. Thanks so much for dropping in to check out this really cool video. I think I'll start this out with just talking about what a cattle knife is. Here's probably the perfect example of a cattle knife. It has a steer etched in it. And this knife here is a keen cutter. You can see it right there. It's kind of worn, but you can still see it. Has a clip blade on it. This is pretty cool. So this is a Shipley keen cutter, 1939. See hammer forge there. And this knife used to have forge marks on it. Maybe you can see, yeah, you can see them a little better on this side. Kind of wore out though, but has a clip blade. Sometimes cattle knives have a spear point blade. You can see the sheep's foot here, and this one has a spade blade. So that's kind of the classic example of a cattle knife. They're fairly large, robust knives, fairly wide, and they look a lot like a utility knife. Matter of fact, here's the utility knife, and these knives run between 3 and 5/8 and 3 3/4. Now that's the standard size for these. There is some variation, and you can see right there that the utility knife looks an awful lot like a cattle knife, and that's because that's where this knife came from. So utility knives are made on the cattle knife frame, and that's why they look so much alike. They're very different, though. Of course, utility knife has a specialty can opener and cap lifter blades. So that's what they are. And there is 90% of the cattle knives you see are going to look like this. They're going to be this size within that framework. Here's a spear point blade on one. This is old Robeson here. And there's your spade blade right there. Pretty nice little knife right there. Has a broken blade though. The punch blade is broken. So that's kind of the variation. You're going to see a lot of different kinds of blades in these knives. Here's one with a clip blade. This is a Buffalo Cutlery. The book says this company ran in 1915, but I think this knife is probably around 1920s. 1920s. There's your spade blade, and then this one has a punch right there. And so you get a lot of variation in these blades. What a cattle knife has to have is they'll have a main blade, either a clip or a spear, and then they have to have some kind of farm implement. These were mainly designed for farmers and ranchers, and this one has a sheep's foot on it, and the other one is a pin blade. So that's okay, as long as they have one farm implement. So most of them really have spade blades, and then the third blade, the tertiary blade, will be some variation of a punch, sheep's foot blade, pin blade, something like that. So that's the variation that you see in these. Another variation that you see is this one's a little smaller. So when you look at this, you can see it's quite a bit smaller. So they call these junior cattle knives. Usually they're around 3 3/8 inches, exactly like their big brother. They're just a little smaller. And I don't know how I feel about that. It's what collectors call them, junior cattle knives. But once you get down from that big size, why wouldn't you just think of this as an equal in Stockman? But, Stockmans are always serpentine knives, so that's why this is a junior cattle knife right here. This is a LF&C. Pretty nice knife here. A little bit of mildew. It's gotten down on the inside of this. That's not on the outside. It's on the inside of it. Otherwise, it's a pretty good knife. I like that. This one is a Hibbard, Spencer and Bartlett, I think. Oh yeah, there you go. This probably dates to the 60s, and it's probably made by Ulster. That looks like an Ulster to me. Let's see, where is it? This one has the punch and the spade blade. And this is a Schrade. These are hard to find. You don't see these. Look at that beautiful coloring. This is a wood, which with peach seed jigging. Beautiful, beautiful colors on that. Oval shield. This thing's in great shape. These things ran between 1947 and 1961, I think. That's when they stopped making them. Beautiful Schrade Walden junior cattle knife. So make sure you're sitting down. Put your drink down. Here comes the first shocker. So this is a cattle knife. What? Yeah, it's a canoe pattern, but it is a canoe cattle knife, and it has a spear point blade and have a pin blade there, and then there is your spade blade. So that spade blade makes it a cattle knife. Now, there are some variations in the patterns of these. Remember, 90% of them are going to be equal in, and that's why you're used to this, and you don't really see the other part of this equation, the ones that aren't, because they're kind of scarce. But let me show you here. And here we go. Cattle knives. So here is the ones that you're used to, the equal in cattle knives. And then these are some of the variations. So there's a 4-blade cattle knife. Supposed to be pretty rare. I actually have a 5-blade cattle knife. I'll show you. There's the juniors. We already looked at that. But you have a jumbo here, and if you look at it, it looks like a whittler, and it is. And so you have these jumbo whittlers, which are cattle knives, and you can see the spay blade and the punch there. You also have the center swell balloon end cattle knives. Clearly, you have your 3 standard blades there. This is a Surveyor pattern. I don't have one of the old Surveyors, but this Rough Rider Reserve is a Surveyor pattern. So Surveyor had a blade on each end. They were opposite end knives, and they were canoes that had a swell in the middle of it right there. And this one has the 2 blades, one at each end. And that's kind of what a Surveyor looked like. Now, in antiquity, a Surveyor would have a clip or a spay blade, and on the other side, a clip or spear point, and on the other side, it would have been a spay blade. And that's what a Surveyor is. And here you can see that it's a 4-bladed pattern right there. Another type of cattle knife. Here's your Eureka style cattle knife, your canoe. So that is a gunboat pattern 94. Cases pattern 94. Looks like a canoe, but it's a cattle knife. And so those are the variations, that you'll find in these knives. A lot more out there than you really ever thought there was. This is an Army Air Corps cattle knife right here. It's made by Imperial, 3 3/4. Really good shape on this thing. Feels good too. Good action, smooth action. There's your sheep's foot blade right there, and then on the other end it was just a pin blade. And these were Army Air Corps knives in World War II. What Camillus supplied most of them. That's an Imperial right there, and this is a special one right here. So this is a 5-bladed cattle knife. You have your spear blade, main blade right here. And then it has a small clip blade, which is broken there. I need to fix that. It has a pin blade. But on the other side, you have your regular cattle knife blades. And so you have a punch and a spay blade on the other side. Very, very rare to see this. You notice that was one of these 5-bladed ones were not listed in Bernard Levin's Guide to Knives, and he said that 4-bladed ones are kind of scarce and rare. So this is really cool to have this one of a kind. You get 3 back springs on this one right here. Pretty cool. So let's talk about where these things came from. So cattle knives have been around for a long time. Levin says since the 1870s. I think that's about right. The oldest examples that I could find were from a catalog, an 1884 catalog, Hibbert, Spencer, and Bartlett catalog. And so I'm going to show some pictures of those different knives. You see this one up here. It's a 1884. It's an Ulster. It's 3 5/8. The third blade is tucked in, but you can clearly see it's an equal end classic cattle knife, what we would consider to be a cattle knife. So you have that fully developed in 1884. Okay, so this picture is another one, 1884, and this is a Hibbard, Spencer, and Bartlett knife, 3 3/4 inches, and it's a sleeve board. And so remember, we saw the jumbo sleeve board patterns of cattle knives, and this is from 1884, and you're going to see there's a bunch of different patterns that we're going to see here in this catalog. So a knife comes out, a pattern comes out. If it's popular, they start reproducing it in other patterns to appeal to more people. And so this is an 1884 catalog. So you had to have time for that to develop, at least probably 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years before all these different patterns start popping up. So yeah, I think they came out in the 1870s. The other thing about that is that the 1870s is that westward expansion, the gold rush. So that's when people start going out west, and the Indian wars are winding down, and there's a lot of movement of people who have a need for that. So this is just a jackknife right here. It's a really nice jackknife. It's a Remington, but this is the main pattern that people carried, a jackknife, not a serpentine jackknife, because they didn't come around to the 1890s, but a jackknife, and that's what most people carried. But when you have this movement out west, you've got people starting all kinds of farms, sheep farms, horse farms, cattle farms, and they need a more robust knife that can maybe do more things. So these are considered multi-blades. They have 3 blades, so that's a multi-blade knife. And this is, I think, a very popular knife for that genre. And you're going to see here, I'll put this one up here. This is from that same catalog. It's a Lawton cutlery knife, and it's 4.5 inches, and it's a Whittler knife. Now, this may or may not be a cattle knife, but what I want you to notice is the rustler on the blade. So, knife companies are honing in and marketing directly to ranchers and farmers on the knives and the scenes that they put in. Look at this one. It's a smaller 3 5/8 inch cattle knife, and it's again has a Whittler design to it. But notice, look at that cattle knife roundup. So there again, they are marketing and pushing these knives towards ranchers and cattlemen and farmers. Here is from an 1890 catalog, and here you see an A.J. Jordan perfect classic 3 5/8 inch cattle knife, and you see the cattle knife right on the blade. So they're not going to leave that to your imagination. And this is kind of when cattle knives have reached their pinnacle. This is a time frame when trains are starting to become regular out west, and cattle are starting to be moved by train. So the need for these long cattle drives where you need a robust knife is kind of going away, and that kind of sets the stage for the Stockman, the serpentine Stockman. And why we get a Stockman, because we don't need as robust a knife. This next picture is from the same catalog, an 1890 Jordan catalog, and you can see it's a 4-blade cattle knife, and again, it's marked as cattle knife, and it's just showing that these things are mainstream right now by 1890. But by the time the 40s come around, really by 1920, the cattle knife is kind of fading away. I think the utility knife starts replacing it for most situations. They're still popular. You know, this is a 87. Is this? Yeah, 1987 cattle knife. Case still makes this 46 pattern cattle knife off and on, and but Case probably the last one to make a cattle knife. Most companies discontinued them, around 1950, 1960. They're just not moving as well as these Stockmans, which people are preferring. It's a lot wider knife. You can see right there, even though these are very close together. Let's see, this is 3 5/8. So very, very close in size, but it's a lot smaller. It's a lot lighter, easier to pocket, not as heavy, banging around your pocket. And so that's the time frame when these knives start kind of going away. The cattle knife also, this pattern, this 3 5/8 inch pattern, it spawned the canoe. So the canoe is made on a 3 5/8 pattern, cattle knife pattern. They just cut it down and put some copperhead bolsters on it. And the other one, of course, is a utility knife. Same pattern knife. They just put different blades on it. So this is one of the most successful patterns probably ever. And, they're still making them. They're not quite as popular as they used to. And before we leave, I want to show you one more. This knife right here is a smaller knife. It's 3 1/2 inches. And these knives were opposite end knives. You can see here it's got a spade blade. This is an English knife. And these knives were called bullheads. We called them bullhead knives. But this is considered a 2-blade cattle knife. So that's what Bernard Levin says these are. I wonder if I got one. Let's see real quick. I don't think I brought it out. When these have a main blade and a pen blade, they're just opposite end knives. But when you put a spade blade on it, they consider them 2-blade cattle knives. These were also a thing, back pre-1940. A lot easier to carry. Maybe a chicken farmer, might have a smaller knife like this with just 2 blades. That's all they needed, maybe. And but with another blade like a coping blade or a pen blade, this was just called a bullhead. So I just wanted to throw that in there. We don't really think of these 2-bladed knives as cattle knives, but if the knife has the thing to remember is that the knife has a farm blade on it, like a punch, like a spade blade, like a sheep's foot blade, then it's considered a cattle knife. And so that's about it for these knives. They've been around a long, long time. They're great knives. One of my favorite patterns. I love carrying one. If you're out and working, this is more of a work knife. This is more of a play knife. So the utility knives, you know, good to have if you're headed out into the woods. You're camping, you're going to be opening cans, you may be doing other things. If you're just, you know, working around the job site, you know, a good cattle knife is a nice knife to have. Very robust, can handle almost anything. And I hope you found it informative and enjoyed the video. It's kind of fun to make. We'll talk to you later. Thanks again for checking out the video. We'll see you in the next one.